Welcome back to Arab Identity. I am Wissam Sharafuddin, your host from the Arab American Center for Culture and Arts. And today we're doing something special. We're telling the origin story, except we're going to tell it with a few missing chapters put back where they belong. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: America wasn't born in isolation. It didn't rise out of a vacuum like some patriotic Big Bang. From day one, the American experiment was plugged into a wider world: Africa, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and yes, the Arab world. Start with Morocco. While the United States was still a fragile newborn trying to convince the planet it existed, Morocco was among the first to treat it like a real nation, opening its ports to American ships and then formalizing a relationship that became the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. That treaty isn't just a piece of paper, it's a signal, a reminder that early America needed allies' recognition, trade, and protection, and the Arab and Muslim world was part of that diplomatic reality. Then there is a story that feels like it should be in every textbook, but it isn't. Mustafa al-Zamuri, known in the historical records as Estebanico, a man from Azumur in Morocco, enslaved and forced into expeditions, who became one of the earliest people of African Arab origin in traverse huge parts of what is now the American South and Southwest. His life is not a simple triumph story, although it's an amazing story, but it's also a collision of conquest, survival, navigation, language, and human complexity. But it proves something essential. Arabs were present in the earliest chapters of this continent's colonial history, not as a footnote, but as actors moving through the terrain of what would later become America. And then there is the realm of ideas, the invisible architecture behind nations. Thomas Jefferson owned the Quran, and he didn't buy it as a decoration. He was intellectually hungry, obsessively so, reading legal systems, religions, and philosophies beyond his own tradition. Now, I'm not here to claim that the Quran wrote the American democracy. That would be a lazy mythology. But Jefferson's engagement with Islamic texts sits inside a broader fact. The American founders were drawing from global currents, and they were curious about civilizations the modern West often pretends it never needed. Which brings us to one of the great intellectual smuggling operations in history: Ibn Rushd, also known as Averroes, the Andalusian giant whose insistence on reason, argument, and rigorous interpretation helped carry Aristotle back into Europe, shaping scholastic debate and later feeding the deeper river of the Enlightenment Europe didn't invent by itself. So, in rationalism was not invented from scratch, it was inherited, translated, fought over, refined, and exported. And that intellectual inheritance is part of the ecosystem that produced figures like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Paine, whose political writing and scientific spirit helped spark the American Revolution. There is a table in Paris on which Voltaire, in his last years, sat down with Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was a big student of the Enlightenment that which Europe has built upon it from what it took from the Andalus, like from Ibn Rushd or Ibn Tufayl. So yes, Moroccan diplomacy, Az-Zamuri's journey, Jefferson's library, Ibn Rushd's philosophy, these aren't random trivia facts. They're evidence of a larger point. Arabs helped shape the material world and the idea world that America emerged from. And then we get to the modern era where Arab Americans didn't just arrive to America, they built inside it, in medicine and public health and engineering and technology and law, literature, entrepreneurship, activism, the military, education, and the arts. Some names are famous: Many aren't, and that's part of the problem. Contribution is everywhere, recognition is selective. Tonight's episode is about correcting that selective memory, not to steal anybody's story, but to end the ridiculous habit of telling America's story as if entire civilizations were never in the room. And to help us explore these Enlightenment values, how they traveled, transformed, and eventually shaped what we call now American values, I'm joined today by a guest whose work sits exactly at the intersection of ideas, religions, and civilizations. Our guest is a doctor in Islamic thought and comparative religion, someone who doesn't just study religion as a set of rituals, but as a living map of how societies understand truth, ethics, authority, and the human being. He holds a master's degree in the future of religions and religious schools in the Mediterranean basin, a field that's basically designed for anyone brave enough to ask, where are the belief systems going next? And why does geography, this crossroads of civilizations, matter as much? He also earned a bachelor's degree in English language and literature, specializing in the history of ideas and cultural studies, which means he's trained to read texts, movements, and civilizations not as isolated islands, but as dialogues shaping one another across centuries. He's also the author of a book titled رهانات الثقافة في الحوض المتوسط, the stakes of culture in the Mediterranean basin. And among his published articles is a piece on the separation between culture and religion as an entry point for organizing cultural diversity, a topic that feels almost tailored for today's episode, where we're talking about how societies build shared civic values without demanding everyone think, pray, or live the exact same way. So today's conversation won't be slogans. It'll be a deep dive with a guest who knows how to track the genealogy of ideas and how to separate mythology from history without killing the soul of the story. Welcome, Doctor. Glad to have you with us. And let us hear from you your take on how Arabs helped establish America.
I'm very thankful to you, Dr. Sharafuddin, to invite me to talk about this important subject, which is which could enlighten some facts in our common history with the United States, because for decades Arabs were stigmatized as terrorists or as bad persons, either in Hollywood movies or in some in media especially. But the fact is not as it was represented and as it was created. First, for the American government at that time, revolutionary government led by the first president, George Washington, was, let's say, made many endeavors, military speaking and diplomatically also. In Europe, they made many efforts to be recognized. But the surprise was that they were recognized by the Sultan Muhammad III, Sidi Muhammad bin Abdullah, one of the great figures in our history. Even we can say that Muhammad III was one of the figures of, let's say, inspiring modernity in Morocco, either on the state and strategic vision. Sultan Muhammad III sent a message to the Europeans that all American ships will be under the protection of the empire, Moroccan Empire, of course, or Sharifian Empire. And that was a great news for the at that time of the newborn American government, because it's an army, an armada of ambassadors, great figures in the history of America, like Sir Adams, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. All of these are distributed in Europe to make these links with European, and they received at last this let's say this push of their diplomatic efforts. So the first country, as you said, of course, recognizing the independence of the United States, was an Arab country in 1777. And as I sent to you, the message of articles of the treaty and of recognition and peace. At that time, if the American passed with in our ports, they will be under protection, and no one will pirate, because at that time the pirates, etc. So George Washington also wrote to the Sultan to go or to mediate with the Ottoman provinces, either in Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya, and Tripoli, called at that time, to let American ships go in peace. And what is written also in a letter of the Sultan to George Washington. He said, the Sultan said, and what you required, it will be done, inshallah. Means وَإِنَّمَا طَلَبْتُمْ. So what you required will to mediate in Tripoli, in Tunisia, will be done, because the Sultan has a great influence on his region, of course, and his word is very respectful. So when he told them, please let the American ships go in peace, they let them. And what happened? Mostly, of course, because we should know that let's say communications, it's not like this. We can have a phone or send a text also, because a message will take months and many days, at least, to arrive to do target. So this is this relation between America and the Arab world. So, first one. Second thing, second step in this is what we call it the intellectual influence. We should know that the most, the peak of the influence of Islamic civilization on the European intellectual philosophy and society, economy, etc., was in the 18th century. I haven't a proof, because I don't have a proof to this thing, this point. In the American dollar is written, "In God we trust." And if we go to the first dinar, the Arab dinar made by the Abdul-Malik, the Khalif Abdul-Malik ibn Marwan, "La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, billahi nathiq," in God we trust. This expression was in the first dinar, the Arab dinar also. I don't know, is it a coincidence that the American currency, because they will when they will be independent from the British Empire, etc., and they will build their states, is there any link with the two expressions, "Billahi nathiq," in God we trust, in the first dinar and the first dollar, in the first currency in America, and the currency is one of the facets of or the founders of sovereignty of any country. The flag currency, money, etc., are symbols of sovereignty. I don't have, so we should make more researches on this point. Third thing, the influence of America on the American commercial codes, pardon, is the right of Malikite, المذهب المالكي, the Malikite, which is we know that Morocco is one of citadel of Malikite jurisprudence. So many laws were influenced by the Malikite Moroccan jurisprudence. Another thing, by the way, I just remember it, that George Washington sent to the Sultan Muhammad III a copy of the Constitution before it was adopted by the Congress at that time, in 1787. And we know that the Constitution were adopted in the United States in 1789, the same year of the French Revolution. But a copy of the Constitution had already been between the hands of the Sultan Muhammad III before the Congress adopted it 2 years after. So I said the most influencing of Arab and Islamic culture and civilization were in the 18th century. So
you kind of opened up the subject, the next subject about the philosophical influence. So there is this clear relationship and communication between the Sultan of Morocco with the American leadership. We want to go in the next chapter is to the deep roots of Americanism and the American values that were established on the basis of the Enlightenment in Europe, how that is a mix of efforts that Arabs have contributed greatly to, and we're going to talk about this. But before we go there, I wanted to talk about the first Muslim and the first claimed Arab to be in the United States. If you visit the Arab American National Museum, which is the only Arab American really national museum in the country that's located here in the city of Dearborn, Michigan, you will find in that exhibit that the first person that they exhibit as the first Arab American immigrant is Al-Azmuri. And you're going to talk to us a little bit about that. I want to bring in what Dr. Ali Ajami, who is one of the founders of the Arab American Center for Culture and Arts, is participating in the comment section. Says researchers say that before embarking on his first voyage to America, Columbus had, let me start with his first comment. So he says many historians are suggesting that Arab Muslims come to the Americas possibly as early as the 700s. They argue that Muslims came from Spain, Andalus, during the rule of Khalifa Abdullah ibn Muhammad. The Abbasid historian Abu al-Hasan al-Mas'udi, who's born in 871 to 957, wrote in his book Muruj al-Dhahab, the Gold, about an Arab sailor named قشقش يمكن أو قشقش ibn Sa'id ibn Aswad, who sailed into the Atlantic Ocean. Professor Barry Fell of Harvard University confirms that Muslims reached the continent at the time of Uthman, the third caliph, or at least at the time of Ali, the fourth caliph, and we're talking then the 7th century. Researchers say that before embarking on his first voyage to America, Columbus had read the book of Roger Bacon, Opus Magus, Greater Work, published on 1267, 225 years before his first voyage. The book comprised information compiled from a variety of Arabic resources about geographical regions on the other side of the Atlantic. Hence, Columbus' previous knowledge of Atlantic islands might have also Arab roots. Thank you for the valuable contribution, Dr. Ali Ajami. And before we go to Dr. Youssef, I have a little video to show you about the untold story of Mustafa al-Azmuri.
Tabanico, whose full name is believed to be Mustafa Azamuri, holds a unique place in the history of early exploration. Born in Azamur, a town in present-day Morocco, around the early 16th century, he was a man of African descent who was enslaved and later became an essential figure in one of the most extraordinary journeys of survival in the Americas. Captured and sold into slavery, Estebanico was brought to Spain, where he became part of the ill-fated Narvaez expedition, one of the earliest Spanish ventures into the uncharted territories of the New World. Despite his enslaved status, his resourcefulness, linguistic skills, and ability to connect with indigenous peoples turned him into a vital intermediary during the expedition's dramatic transformation from conquest to survival. Over 8 years, Estebanico and 3 other survivors, Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, Andrés Dorantes, Estebanico's enslaver, and Alonso del Castillo, traveled thousands of miles across what is now the southern United States and northern Mexico. Through his remarkable resilience, adaptability, and cultural negotiation skills, Estebanico carved a distinct identity as a bridge between different worlds, leaving an indelible mark on history as one of the first recorded Africans in North America. Estebanico's life story is more than just a tale of survival. It is a testament to the complexity of cultural exchange and human resilience during the age of exploration. While much of his life remains obscured by history, filtered through the narratives of his European counterparts, it is clear that his role was indispensable. His ability to communicate with indigenous groups and navigate unknown terrains exemplifies his intelligence and adaptability. Tragically, his life ended around 1539 during another expedition, led by Fray Marcos de Niza, when he ventured ahead as a scout into Zuni territory and reportedly met his death. Estebanico's legacy endures as a symbol of the multicultural foundations of the Americas. His presence challenges traditional narratives of conquest by highlighting the contributions and agency of marginalized figures in shaping history. Today, he is increasingly recognized as a pioneer whose life and journeys illustrate the interconnectedness of Africa, Europe, and the Americas in the early modern world.
Of course, Estebanico is a large figure, and his story has so much exciting details. And one of the things I love about the story of Estebanico is the way he communicated and dealt with the indigenous population in a very humane way. He has developed medicine to treat some of the illnesses that were spreading at that time, and thus he was respected and loved by the indigenous population, developed strong relationship as he was used as a guide later for the further conquest or colonization by the colonial powers. And then he ended up dying. Of course, we take his history with a grain of salt. So as we recognize his accomplishments, but we also understand that he was part of a complicated history that involved colonialism and a lot of suffering and pain for the indigenous population. Dr. Yusuf, talk to us a little bit more about Mustafa Azmouri and his role in establishing what is to be discovered as and established later as the America.
Well, we can say that this personage was very, very smart and is a multi-talented person, and which helped him to go further. First, to impose his position on the Spanish, let's say, small community of leaders, because we know that he was a slave, and why he was a slave? Because many problems and a great destabilization of happened in Morocco at that time. The weakness of the state, because we are at that time in the end of the Wattasid dynasty and the rising of the Saadian dynasty, and this conflict, without forgetting that Portuguese occupation of the coasts, most of Moroccan coasts at that time, and that among them was Azmour. Azmour is a small city in the north of El Jadida now, or Mazagan, as it called at that time. So this instability in the country led to many problems, economic problems, social problems, and many complications at that time in Morocco. And since starvation reigned some parts of the country, people were obliged, some people were obliged to sell their children and member of families, and luckily, we don't know, is it good for him, or is it a great chance, a good opportunity or not? رب ضارة نافعة, as the Arab proverb said. وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم. Mustafa al-Azamuri was sailed to a Portuguese, and then he was given to one of personal, I don't remember his name, who were Spanish. This man observed that al-Azamuri has some characters, some talents, so he learned him or teach him Spanish, Latin, and Portuguese, of course. And then, since he is speaking Arabic, which is more or less his mother language, so this person was open-minded, that he absorbed all these languages. Once in America, in this expedition, which is was called Narvaez expedition in Florida. And then he integrated that tribes, and he learned local languages of these people. Then he became the official translator and mediator between Spanish and the local or native people of America. And I think that why he succeeded in this role remarkably, and because he has this character of a Moroccan people which is open to foreigners. We know that Spanish at that time made a policy that just they want gold, they exploit people. They don't accept diversity, especially religious diversity. And one of their between quotes claimed missions, noble, burden is to civilize these peoples. Civilizing these peoples because they are savage, they are primitive, etc., etc. All the stereotypes they made on these peoples. But I think that Zamuri, who saw before Christians, Jews in Morocco, and this diversity, even the doctrine, Islamic doctrine, who is open to and recognize the Ahl Kitab, the people of the book. So all these values and this background helped Zmouri to integrate and to make his mission very easy. When I say easy, it's not literally. We could not accept this literally, but at least better than as a Spanish who will come to these tribes and they talk to them and let's say want to exploit their minerals, or you should show us where's gold, etc., and who will not bring this quantity, they will cut their hands, etc. Many atrocities were written and noted by in their journals of these expeditors. But I think that Zmouri was very, very different, not because he has blue blood or he was Moroccan, but I said that these values, this background of Zmouri helped him to make his mission completely.
Thank you. Yeah, and Dr. Ali Ajami says that researchers say that Zmouri was one who discovered Florida and
Yes.
the first who entered Mexico, New Mexico,
Yes,
Arizona.
of course.
Of course, that is talking about colonialists.
And he was the first non-American who put his leg on Texas.
Mm-hmm.
On Texas, he was the first one who discovered Texas.
Yes. Also, Dr. Ali Ajami adds, they say also that he was an eyewitness to the brutality of the European settlers against the local natives. His narratives were very important in understanding
Absolutely.
the history of settlement and colonialism. An American Moroccan novelist named Layla Al-Alami wrote a novel about him titled Ma Rawah Al-Maghribi. And also there is a series, El Dorado series in the United States, which was also written based on Al-Zmouri.
Excuse me, Al-Ahlam Al-Dhahabiyya, in a cartoon film made by the Japanese, Esteban Zia and Tao. Esteban was inspired from Mustafa Al-Azmouri in these cartoon films series.
So coming to an end to this chapter, before we enter into the chapter of enlightenment, and then we come to I think the episode is not going to be enough to get into the modern Arab American immigration in the 19th century and beyond, and their contribution to the establishment of America. That will need episode, if not episodes by itself. But to come to an end for Estebanico chapter, we say it's not really about him as the first Arab. He's a human mirror.
Yes.
He shows us that America's foundations were never purely European, never purely Christian, never purely white, never purely anything. They were always mixed through trade, through diplomacy, through ideas, through forced labor, through survival. And if America can't handle that complexity, then America is living inside a fairy tale. That fairy tale that unfortunately lives in the minds of a lot of Americans today, who they utilize the de-intellectualization of the American public and fighting against public schooling and the intellectualization of America. They fight against it to keep the people in such a level that they can believe these fairy tales. Although America is beautiful and strong with its complexity and diversity, and not in the vision that some try to present. We're not here to decorate this fairy tale. We're here to tell the truth. Beautiful, brutal, inspiring, and real. That's the Arab American role. Not to ask for a seat at the table, but to remind everyone the table was built by many hands, and some of them were forced to work with chains on. And yes, one of those hands belonged to a man from Azmur. So that's the emphasis of what that we're trying to make, is the diversity of America. We come to a very important chapter next, which is the chapter on the Enlightenment. And we're gonna you've mentioned a little bit of it. We're gonna talk a little bit about this. Of course, the American Revolution is born from the womb of the European Enlightenment, and the European Enlightenment is an advanced version, or it built on what it has gotten from the Andalusian, like Ibn Rushd, Averroes, and Ibn Tufayl, Enlightenment thinkers, the founders of Enlightenment in Al-Andalus. That's, of course, something that is very well documented in history. It's beyond proof. I'm going to show a little video, Doctor, and then we'll open this discussion about how Ibn Rushd influenced Enlightenment.
क्या आप जानते हैं कि यूरोप में निशात सानिया के दौर की फ़िक्रें बुनियादें एक मुसलमान फ़लसफ़े
Okay, that's not going to help us in Urdu, unfortunately, but we'll resort to the discussion. So to make a long story short, and to enter into the discussion phase, when we speak about the Enlightenment, it's not like we're speaking about dawn, as though it simply happened, as though the sun just rose one morning over Europe and everyone suddenly discovered reason, as though history is a tidy room and civilization is a straight line, and all the furniture has always been in the right place. History was not built this way. It's a cumulative. So when we want to tell the story honestly, we will have to confess that what we call today Americanism, what we call today the founding of America, what we call today the Constitution of the United States, those high words, those holy documents, did not descend from heaven into the hands of powdered men in Philadelphia. They came through blood and ink and commerce and conquest and translation. They came through a word that America prefers sometimes not to remember, because remembering it would mean admitting that this nation was never the self-made miracle some advertises it to be. Europe did not invent itself out of nothing. It was taught, it was haunted, it was fed, and one of the places it was fed, one of the places where knowledge was not merely preserved but argued over, sharpened, expanded, was Andalus. That complicated, luminous, imperfect word in Muslim Spain, where Arabic was not a foreign tongue, but a language of libraries and medicine and mathematics and philosophy. For 12 centuries, where Jews and Christians and Muslims did not float in some sentimental harmony. No, but history is never that kind anyway, but where the traffic of ideas was real enough to change the destiny of the continent. So what moved out of Andalus into Europe was not simply a pile of manuscripts. What moved was a way of thinking, the discipline of argument, the hunger of coherence, the insistence that the mind is not a sin. A civilization does not only export spices and silk, it exports habits, it exports nerves. So Descartes and Locke and Voltaire, as though they sprang from that renaissance that took place in Al-Andalus. Ibn Rushd, for example, Averroes in Latin, who argued with Aristotle as a man argues with a formidable friend, not as, he he argued with stubborn clarity and he insisted that reason and faith do not have to be enemies, and that the mind is not an insult to God, and that is the essence of enlightenment, is that the human is the most important thing on earth, and that the mind is the most important thing in the human. Of course, these ideas they transferred and processed, and they were translated and they were quoted. Sometimes they were not quoted, they were used and not quoted because they were frowned upon by some of the governments and powers in Europe. They did not like the quoting of Averroes and Muslim men, but nevertheless the ideas and pseudonames were created, and the ideas entered Europe and were translated, and they fed into the Enlightenment thought until they came to Voltaire and Rousseau, and they spoke and developed them further. And this is where, in these cafes of Paris, where the revolutionaries of the Enlightenment were born, from Robespierre, the founder of the French Revolution, or one of the founders of the French Revolution, to Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Paine, who have written the mind of French Revolution. Let's talk a little bit about this, Dr. Youssef.
It's a great point that you raise. That's in the question of enlightenment. Enlightenment, as I see, is a common human heritage, and we should end a myth, which is that America or West in general, that is based on Judeo-Christian culture or civilization. It's not true, because all the facts show that there is a great part. I don't know. I don't say that we are given, let's say, a charity to Arabs, but these are historical facts. The influence of Napoleon civil code was based on the Malikite jurisprudence. الفقه المالكي is the base of the civil code at that time. But what happened? Before, we should know a very important point, which is there is before 19th century and there is after 19th century. Why? Because before 19th century, there is this exchange. I gave just one example. When Arabs were chased from Granada, 1492, of course, all this heritage, scientific, medicine, linguistic, jurisprudence, etc., all this civilization, where is it? So these books were taken. Of course, they make a selection. What is scientific, mathematics, what is practical, was taken. But the mistake that Arabs till now made, they don't oriented their efforts to study or to at least visit our scientific heritage. They just let's say, ensieged themselves in the fiqh, in the jurisprudence, or doctrine, etc., etc. usul fiqh. But the heritage الموروث العلمي والثقافي, الموروث العلمي, the scientific, the exact heritage, the scientific, medicine, even coaching. The coaching now, the United States is one of the leaders of the coaching. But if you go to Tahdib al-Nufus, for example, of Ibn Hazm, he's talking about the types of people, the quality of people, because this small book of Ibn Hazm, for example, is the extract of his experience after ending his ministry mission, and it's like a retirement, and they wrote all his experience in this book. So we have many things in our Torah, our patrimony, our heritage, cultural heritage, out of jurisprudence, out of al-fiqh, to visit, to see it, science, mathematics, you know, علم الخدع, the mechanics, it's and so forth. So this heritage were as a power to European movement for advance and for progress. But since the Europeans, and after Industrial Revolution and imperialism, more power, military, and after colonization, they said everything before 19th century, everything before Greek heritage is not recognized officially, and the others has no civilizations, has no culture. Our culture is the upper, and they repeat this till the Holocaust. They add Judeo, they say the Judeo-Christian civilization, culture, but Islamic culture or Arab culture has no, is not relevant to our human heritage. Even human rights, the Declaration of Human Rights, etc., is also based on this Judeo-Christian, but is forgotten that Islamic heritage. Just a small point. Even you know that Declaration of Human Rights didn't reach till now what Izz bin Abd Salam gave to animals, because our heritage in this side, even animals has their importance, and we should respect them by the chart of Izz ibn Abd Salam, one of the greatest figure in the 13th century of our in Egypt.
Dr.
So,
Yusuf,
yes.
can I cut you right here, or do you want to finish first?
Yes, you can go on.
Okay.
You can go.
Just because the time is
Yes,
ending
I
for
know.
the episode,
I'm so
I wanted-
sorry.
No, بالعكس, it's very beneficial, doctor, and it's a very interesting topic. Here's يعني I want to bring a recap. يعني it's very important,
Mhm.
especially يعني احنا what we're trying to do in the Arab American Center for Culture and Arts is educate the general public, and also educate Arab Americans about their identity and their heritage, especially
Yes.
this program Arab Identity. So I want them to understand that what we have worked on, what was born out of our struggle, intellectual struggle, and life experience throughout the centuries of building the Arab and Islamic civilization, it has culminated in these when the environment was right and ripe for ideas to flourish, which were in the Andalus. We created these great ideas of, that were built over time, but we established them, the basis of the Enlightenment, which is the focus on humanity, the focus on human rights, the focus on يعني on the ideas and on the values of freedom, al-aql, rational thinking, and these ideas we suffered in the Islamic world, because Al-Andalus was, the Baghdad was struck in 1258, and then the Andalus was struck in 1450s. So we, because of the struggles, the political struggles, for civilization to grow, for thought to grow, it needs an environment. And Arabic was prohibited from Spain, and Arabs were kicked out, and some of them left, but Arabic was prohibited from being used in Spain, and that discontinued this journey of enlightenment. But it transferred into the minds of Europe through translation, and kept growing there. And then the printing press came, which is in the 1450s. The printing press started in Europe, while we didn't have a printing press in the Arab world. The Arab world was then controlled by the Ottoman Empire, which did not emphasize printing. And then when it brought printing all the way in the 1706, it was Turkish printing, and Arab printing did not start until 1799, with Napoleon bringing the first printing press to Egypt, and then in Lebanon in the 1820s, which brought the Arab Renaissance at that time, the modern Arab Renaissance. So we were about 200 years behind the development of these ideas. But these ideas have transferred. So our Arab and Muslim civilization mind has transferred to the minds of Europe. And then it has transferred to the minds of America. And now we're Arab Americans, we're here in America. So it is an amazing thing that we have preserved this mind, and now we are living the benefits and the fruits of this mind. And this is very important to claim that. So this is not foreign for us. This is ours. This is, of course, it's everyone's, but it is as much as it is everyone's. It is as much as it is ours. It is our thought. It's embedded in it. It is the struggles and work of our ancestors and thinkers who have, sacrificed, and they died in the path of the Enlightenment, and now we're living the results of Enlightenment. So I, as Arab American, I feel very strongly about being an American, preserving American values, preserving American ideals, because they are mine, because they have transferred from Ibn Rushd, Ibn al-Tufayl, and the scholars before them, the revolutionaries of the Mu'tazila, all the way till today. They have transferred into the American Constitution, into the writing of Thomas Paine, and they are under attack in America. They're under attack by the Christian right, by the Zionists, and by the various forces that try to تختزل, يعني they try to undermine America into different narratives that change. So this is the importance of this conversation.
It's a clash. It's a clash of ignorance, not a clash of civilizations.
Ahsan, yes. So civilizations, they all are the children of the same thought process. of course, there is a big segment where we move from the founding stage into the newer stages of America, but that might take another episode for it. I want to leave you, Doctor, with the final word before ending the period, and thank you.
I'm very grateful to you to raise these points, these subjects, which are I'm sure that they will make a movement and excitement to other researchers, to our youth, to search more, to be proud of their Arabity and their Islamity, if we want. And don't forget one point, that the struggle now is not between this religion or this component of society or that, but the struggle is the struggle of values, but human values, human tolerance, human sharing is decent, and sharing what I have to share with you, either food or all human great behavior that leading to cementing the society and solidify and consolidating our society. Because either in the United States or other country, diversity is one universal and natural fact. We should accept it as evidence. But if we want to make exclusiveness and to be close on our identity, it will not go. We will not succeed. We will not succeed because we it's like we striking a rock, and it's not good for neither society or our future of humanity and the world. I just want to remember it's a funny thing in the relations between America and Morocco, when the Sultan in 1895 they gave them a present or a gift, which is an animal, a lion of Atlas, and that was a very diplomatic embarrassment for the United States. How to if they will not accept this gift, this royal gift, the Sultan will not sign the treaty, and it was very, very funny. You can say this in the journals of the American ambassador in Tangier. And by the way, the first building, diplomatic building of the United States was in Tangier. It was a gift of the Sultan to give them a building. Now it's transformed to a museum in Tangier. It's in American propriety, but it was a gift from the Moroccan Sultan at that time. Now it's a museum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Youssef. Thank you for all our listeners and people who follow this episode. As a final reminder, it's a reminder that the Enlightenment upon which the American Constitution the best thing in America, and the secret of American greatness is its Constitution. And that enlightenment is not a private inheritance from Europe. It's not a private inheritance from white colonialists or immigrants. It's not a private inheritance from a certain branch of Christianity. This is a human inheritance. And anyone trying to build a wall around it is not defending civilization, but actually defending a lie. Thank you for joining us for
Thank you very much.
in this episode.
Thanks indeed.
And on behalf of the Arab American Center of Culture and Arts, we invite you to subscribe, share, and stay with us because our history isn't a footnote. It's a chapter in American history. It's a chapter in world history, and a chapter that we cannot afford to forget. Thank you. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much.